It is early morning in the city of Rome. The solar has but to climb over the terracotta rooftops of the capital of the empire. However, life is already stirring within the labyrinth of alleys and insulae, those crowded apartment buildings that condor most of the metropolis's residents. This kind of cramped homes belongs to a man named Marcus Ann, normal Roman plebeian. He is not a senator, not a merchant prince, no longer a soldier or gladiator, only a humble craftsman looking to get by, using the faint glow of dawn creeps by means of the slender wooden shutters of his second-flooring rental within the Subura district and field, teeming with working category Romans. The streets beneath are suffering from remnants of the night times movements, fragments of amphorae, scraps of spoiled food, and the bitter stench of unwashed bodies and spilled wine. Rome is a metropolis that never truly sleeps. However, now it starts to wake in earnest. Marcus stretches on his worn straw mattress, groaning slightly as his joints protest the difficult bedding. At practically 40 he's viewed, middle-aged, perhaps even historical among the many plebeians who rarely are living earlier their 50s until fortune favors them with just right work and no damage. He sits up, brushes back his unruly darkish hair, and starts a the ritual of making ready for the day. Daily routine begins. The primary assignment is washing. In a metropolis of 1 million men and women going for walks, water is a wonder most effective the Romans could provide. Marcus steps into a corner of his room. The place a small ceramic basin waits. He makes use of a pitcher of water drawn from the nearby fountain the night before. It's tepid and slightly dusty, but to him it is refreshing. Soap is luxurious, but he uses a combo of pumice and oil to wash his dermis. Private hygiene is major no longer just for well-being, but for dignity. He clothes in an easy however, clint-tied at the waist with a rope. If he had a customer assembly or courtroom look, he would put on his toga. However, that garment is reserved for formal events. His sandals are cracked but serviceable. As he prepares, he examines on his wife, Livia, and their 2 children, nonetheless drowsing under coarse blankets within the equal room. Privateness is an overseas suggestion in such a household. The Roman insula, urban living in tight quarters. Marcus lives on the 2D floor of a 5-story insula. The cut-down flooring are occupied by wealthier tenants, merchants, scribes, retired eddies. The higher you go, the less expensive and more harmful the lodging turns into, with the top flooring by and large field to fireside or collapse. His employ is excessive for what he gets: a single room with a cooking corner, no running water, and a shared latrine at the end of the hall. Nevertheless, it's better than dozing in the streets. He steps outside onto a slim picket balcony, cautious not to lean too long way over the splintered railing. Beneath, the alley is already alive with sound. A fishmonger's cart rattles over the cobbles. Hawkers shout about recent bread and dates, and a gaggle of boys chases a stray dog towards the Tiber. Breakfast, frugality and function. Breakfast is just not a grand affair. Romans most of the time devour lightly within the morning. Livia hands him a small crust of bread, dipped in watered-down wine, or might be oil if they have got some left. Sometimes there are olives or figs, but not in these days. The children will eat later. When the baker's stalls open, they will beg for leftover morsels. Marcus thanks his wife, kisses her forehead, and steps into the chaos of the Roman morning. Street life and noise. The Roman streets are loud, dirty, and full of power. Marcus walks towards the Forum district, where he works as a woodcarver. Alongside the best way, he passes temples where priests chant prayers to Jupiter and Minerva. Markets already bustling with exercise, and bathhouses the place wealthier men are starting their morning social rituals. He greets fellow artisans, and dodges a passing litter carrying a minor magistrate for slaves, heaving and sweating under the load of opulence, work, and the guild system. Through the 2D hour of the day, roughly 8 a.m., Marcus is at his workshop. It's a small rented stall near the Macellum, the essential market. Right here, he and his apprentice carve household objects, stools, spoons, and small statues of Lares and Penates, the family gods. He belongs to a collegium, a style of guild that protects workers like him, negotiates prices, and even helps with funeral fees. His tools are worn, however, good cared for: chisels, mallets, rasps, each one imperative. He works incessantly, pausing most effective to sip wine from a leather-based dermis or bite on a bit of salted cheese. The work is physical, and splinters. In general, pierces calloused fingers, but it's honest work, and he's happy with it. Many times a nobleman's steward will occasion a larger order, a carved panel, a bed frame, even a cradle for a newborn. These commissions aid him pay the rent and save just a few denarii for emergencies. Midday pause. The Roman siesta at noon. Town slows. The warmth grows oppressive, and plenty of shops shut for just a few hours. Marcus retreats to the coloration, in many instances to a regional tavern. The place might drink Posca sour wine and vinegar blend usual among squaddies and workers. He eats extra bread, might be lentils, if the tavern presents food that day. Dialogue drifts from politics normally detrimental to gossip, up-to-date games in the area, or the modern-day imperial decree. Afternoon business and family duties. In the afternoon, Marcus returns to work, finishing what he can before the 9th hour around 3 p.m. Then it's again to the Subura. On his manor, he could discontinue on the public baths now, not just to clean, however to socialize. Baths are the best equalizer of Rome. Senators and slaves both bathe, though in separate quarters. Marcus can find the money for the lowest rate, and after soaking within the frigidarium and sweating in the caldarium, he emerges refreshed. Back house, his youngsters run to him, keen to show off a drawing scratched in charcoal or a handful of cash found on the street. Livia has managed to cook a simple dinner, perhaps porridge made from spelt, flavored with onion and herbs. If luck is with them, a bit of salted pork provides some protein. Evening in the Subura. As nighttime falls, the streets grow darker and more dangerous. Without present-day streetlights, Rome at night belongs to the shadows. Marcus lights a small oil lamp and secures the wood shutter. From outside comes the faraway clamor of a tavern combat, the croak of frogs from the Tiber, and the faraway call of a nighttime watchman. Within, the household says a brief prayer to the Lares, gives thanks for surviving a further day, and lies down to sleep collectively. Reflection. The life of an ordinary man. Marcus is no hero. He holds no title, commands no legion, and owns no land. However, he's Rome. In his palms, the empire lives quietly, humbly, and without fanfare. He's a cog in the quality laptop of the everlasting metropolis. And although his title would possibly not echo through historical past, his lifestyles is the basis on which Roman greatness rests. A different day dawns over the city of Rome, because the smoky tendrils of early morning fires curl into the air. Marcus rises again from his straw mattress. But today is not a work day. There's no urgent order in the workshop, and the market is closed in honor of a minor religious observance. For once, Marcus has time now not just to labor, however to live, and in the Roman world, that suggests getting into the vibrant, layered world of public existence. 2. Comprehend the daily rhythm of a Roman citizen, chiefly a plebeian like Marcus. We need to step past the cramped walls of his insula and stroll into the city that shaped his identification, a metropolis where every nook, each fountain, and each pillar tells a narrative. The forum heartbeat of the empire. The solar crests above the rooftops as Marcus makes his technique to the discussion. Board Romanum, the bustling core of Roman public lifestyles. The slim alleyways open onto the grand house like arteries to a coronary heart. Here, surrounded by using marble temples and basilicas, politics, religion, commerce, and gossip all blend into one everlasting hum. Marcus may not vote usually. Energy resides within the Senate and amongst elite households, but he watches the comings and goings of magistrates, tribunes, and lictors with fascination. The rostra, the raised platform used for speeches, is presently empty. However, he can nonetheless recall the last fiery oration he heard from a populist tribune denouncing corruption among the patricians. He passes a statue of Julius Caesar, whose name nonetheless provokes each reverence and unease, and hears a group of residents debating new taxes on grain. Although his voice won't subject within the Senate, within the streets, every Roman is a politician. Around him, life pulses with vigor. Retailers hawk fine textiles and stolen goods alike. Beggars recite memorized pleas, and prostitutes lean. In opposition to shaded porticos, children run between columns playing knucklebones. Even as monks in spotless robes procedure solemnly towards the temple of Saturn. For Marcus, the discussion board is not only a situation, it is Rome itself, majestic, chaotic, sacred, profane. bread and brotherhood, the grain dole, and the ananoni. In all Marcus' first stops at present is the porticus minutia frumentaria, where plebeians like him acquire their grain ration from the state-on historical Roman coverage known as the unknowner. It's a public welfare system that supplies food for the urban negative, serving to preclude unrest within the sprawling town. To obtain it, Marcus have to prove his citizenship. It carries a tessera frumentaria, a small clay token issued by means of the city authorities. He queues amongst 1,000s of men, some more youthful than him, others ancient veterans with scarred limbs and sun-creased faces. The road strikes slowly, but the grain is valued at the weight. Each and every recipient receives a modest sack of wheat, so it can be milled into flour for bread at house or exchanged for different goods. For a lot of, including Marcus, the unknowner is the change between starvation and survival. Regional A. Heated argument breaks out. Anybody has allegedly reduced the road. A watchman from the cohorts Urban A, the city police, steps in, diffuses the anxiety, and moves on. Marcus secures his portion, ties the sack to his shoulder, and feels a quick second of safety. Rome is also ruthless, but it surely does not put out of your mind its men and women. III, baths, barbers, and barrels of gossip. The general public bathhouse. Later, in the morning, Marcus walks toward the Thermae of Titus, a rather new set of public baths not a ways from the Esquiline Hill. Though grander companies like the baths of Agrippa or Caracallas, future baths will dazzle generations to come. The Thermae of Titus are nonetheless spectacular. Bathing is a social ritual in Rome, part hygiene, part enjoyment, and phase efficiency. Entry is low-priced, generally backed through wealthy buyers, searching for public favor and the intricate presence. Now not simplest baths, however, gardens, libraries, and even gymnasia. Marcus hands over a small cost, strips naked in the changing room, and outlets his tunic and sandals with the help of a slave attendant. He starts a his circuit by way of the bath problematic tepidarium, a warm, humid room, the place he relaxes and lets his muscle tissues loosen. Caldarium, a sizzling, steamy room with a significant pool, heated by an underground hypocaust system. He sits on the stone ledge, sweat pouring down his back, inhaling the steam. Frigidariuma, plunge into bloodless water, sharp and bracing. Some men shout at the shock, others keep their breath and dive below. After bathing, Marcus will get a fast rub down with oil and astringent, scraping off grime and useless dermis. It's invigorating. He feels cleaner, more civilized, extra, Roman, external. Barbers present, shaves and haircuts, and Marcus indulges in a trim. Round him, other men gossip. A scandal involving a senator's wife, whispers of a gladiator affair, hypothesis in regards to the emperor's trendy mistress. Rome lives through rumor as a lot as fact. 4. Gods amongst men, faith and superstition. In daily life, religion is ever gift in Roman lifestyles, no longer a exclusive affair, but a public and political drive. Marcus just isn't peculiarly pious. However, he can pay recognize to the gods. He stops at a street shrine to the Lares Compitals, the guardian spirits of the crossroads, and lights a small delivering of incense. On days like this, he could additionally discuss with the neighborhood temple might be to Mercury, consumer of merchants, or Ceres, protector of grain. The temples are open-air sanctuaries where sacrifices are made, auguries performed, and vows whispered. He leaves a couple of coins in the providing box, hoping the gods will guard his household. Roman faith is transactional. Worship the gods, and they're going to desire you. Forget them, and you risk misfortune. Superstitions abound. Marcus avoids black dogs, steps around cracks within the paving stones, and never cuts his nails on the calends. Back residence, his spouse Livia tends. The Lararium, the family shrine, where small statuettes of Lares and Pinites stand vigil. She lights a wick soaked in oil and mutters a prayer for health and safeguard. Even within the metropolis's chaos, the old rituals bind the family to the sacred. Leisure and escapism. The ludi and the sectolator in the afternoon. A neighbor mentions that there are ludi public games being held in the Circus Maximus. Marcus, like most Romans, craves distraction. He heads toward the large chariot track, a significant constitution capable of maintaining more than 150,000 spectators. The air is electrical. Vendors promote honeyed dates, spiced wine, and roasted chickpeas. Kids climb onto stone railings, cheering for their favorite groups, the Reds, Whites, Blues, and Veggies. Marcus favors the Blues, as did his father before him. The race starts velved, for chariots thunder down the track, dirt flying, whips cracking. The group surges with every turn across the Spina, the relevant barrier decorated with statues and obelisks. One chariot crashes wooden splinters, and a horse screams. The motive force, Lucky, rolls to defense. Marcus shouts himself hoarse. It's catharsis uncooked, communal, exhilarating. Not some distance from the circus lies the Colosseum, Rome's blood-soaked theater. Marcus has combined emotions about gladiator games. He's watched slaves and prisoners combat to the loss of life, cheered when a lion mauled a crook, even wagered on a Rhysarius versus a Milo. But at present, the races are adequate. Family and festivities, a family feast be way of early night. Marcus returns house. Livia has ready a modest dinner, a stew of lentils, onions, and stale bread soaked in broth. However, tonight, there's a shock. A neighbor introduced over some leftover garum-marinated fish. A small, luxurious they devour collectively, sitting on stools, chatting concerning the day. The children share their little triumphs of stone. Determined near the baths, a story heard from a storyteller in the forum. Tonight, they host just a few buddies for a small gathering. Wine flows freely, although it's watered down, as is the customized they toast to the emperor whoever he. Snigger, as a neighbor, performs an impolite track on a pondpipe. The children sneak dates from the kitchen. The men argue over whether or not Gaul or Egypt produces the first-class grain. Someone quotes Virgil. Anyone else misquotes Ovid. The glint of the oil lamp casts lengthy shadows because the nighttime deepens. External Rome murmurs in 1,000 voices, VII, security, shadows, and the nighttime watches. Marcus walks a visitor dwelling by way of the dim alleyways. He is cautious. Rome isn't any safer at nighttime than it's smooth by day. Thieves and drunkards lurk in the corners. The vigils, Rome's firefighters and night patrol, raise torches and wood staves, but they cannot be everywhere. He sees a patrol detain a suspicious man and move on. In the distance, dogs bark. The wind incorporates the scent of the Tiber, combined with the tang of smoke and sewage. He returns safely and bars the wooden door. Livia lights her ultimate candle at the lararium. The kids curl up beneath blankets. Marcus lies beside them, tired but content. He is a Roman, no longer a senator or a basic. Now, not a poet or thinker, but in his laughter, his labor, his fears, and his hopes, he is the soul of the empire. Rome is also the guts of a great and mighty empire, its marble temples radiant in the sun, its legions feared from Britannia to Arabio. However, beneath the triumphal arches and soaring aqueducts lies an international shadowed with the aid of risk. For Marcus Ann, typical plebeian and father of two, survival in the everlasting metropolis just isn't practically sincere work and ritual offerings. It is a everyday navigation by way of unseen dangerous forces of nature, human folly, and the fragile systems that preserve the Roman machine turning. At the same time, Rome evokes awe in viewers. Its own citizens walk a best line between glory and catastrophe. Today, Marcus wakes not to the common chorus of vendors and mule carts, however, to the distant sound of shouting and the odor of smoke. The ever-gift worry, hearth within the insulate, is nonetheless early. The sunshine of daybreak barely attaining the slender streets of the Subura, when Marcus bolts upright on his straw pallet. His wife Livia is already at the shutter, her face pale. From some place local, maybe, simply 2 blocks north, a fireplace has broken out. Flames in Rome should not infrequent. In fact, they're anticipated. Most insulae are built from timber and dirt brick. Although stone is favored, it's high-priced, and landlords rarely spend money on defense. Tenants like Marcus appoint low-cost spaces stacked 5 or 6 stories excessive with wooden balconies, flammable oil lamps, and cooking fires burning in any respect hours. He rushes outside with a water jug and joins a growing crowd. The hearth remains to be a ways off. However, the wind shifts ominously. Roof tiles crack in the heat. Smoke curls like black ribbons towards the morning sky. Someone screams, any person else calls for the vigils. Town's fireplace brigade and watchmen. The Vigils Urbani, founded under Augustus, are Rome's response to this recurring terror. They patrol the streets via day and nighttime, armed with water buckets, axes, and pumps. After they arrive, they start demolishing nearby walls, developing firebreaks. Even though it method destroying persons' properties, Marcus helps pass water buckets. Others soak blankets. Youngsters cry. Livia shields their youngest, even as the eldest clutches a doll. Ultimately, the fireplaces contained structures scorched, several households displaced. Marcus Insula is spared. However, the worry lingers. Via nightfall, the air still smells of smoke and charred grain. Rome, the town of gods, can also be a tinderbox. 2. Starvation within the breadbasket. The spectre of famine weeks pass. Existence resumes its rhythm. However, an additional hazard stirs underneath the surface. Hunger. Although Rome controls the richest provinces on the earth, its persons ordinarily teeter on the threshold of famine. The town is comfortably too enormous, over 1 million mouths to feed, most of them terrible. Marcus, like many plebeians, is determined by the unknown, the state grain dole. Without it, food prices jump. This month, something is mistaken. Ships from Alexandria, which bring grain from Egypt, are late. Whispers unfold within the discussion board. Storms off Crete. Pirates close Sicily. Even rumors of rebellion in Cyrenaica. Whatever the truth, the Horia the granaries are strolling low. Marcus visits the Porticus Minutia once more. The line is twice as long. The officials don't have anything to give. Bread costs double overnight, then triple. Marcus cuts smaller portions. Livia dilutes the lentil stew with water. They promote a small picket stool handmade by Marcus for a couple of denarii to purchase dried beans. Even olives, as soon as considerable, turn out to be luxurious. Starvation creeps into their bones. The children sleep extra. Livia grows thin. Marcus spends long hours at the workshop carving anything to promote combs, amulets, toy collectible figurines. Within the Mastellum, the imperative market, stalls once crowded with produce now display spoiled fish and wilted vegetables. The Aediles metropolis officials in control of food provide are publicly mocked. Fistfights break out over moldy loaves. One merchant is determined, useless in the Tiber. Then, remedy arrives. A grain convoy, escorted through the Roman navy, docks at Ostia, the port of Rome. Barges transfer a preta. The mood shifts in a single day. Marcus secures a small ration. That night, they devour actual bread, again crusty and scorching from the communal oven. Starvation has handed, however, never forgotten. 3. When the Tiber rises, flood and disorder simply. When town starts to breathe once more, the Tiber betrays. It starts, affeveled, innocently. 2 days of heavy rain. Then 3, the gutters overflow. The street fountains run cloudy, after which, the river rises. Via the 4th day, the cutback districts flood together with ingredients of the Subura and Transtiberum. The sewers again up. Dirt floats within the streets. Houses near the banks are submerged waist-deep in muddy water. Retail outlets close. Bridges groan under the pressure. Marcus Insula is built on somewhat greater floor. However, water seeps into the minimized rooms. The shared latrine backs up, filling the stairwell with a foul stench. The flood is not only an inconvenience, it is a herald of disease. With the water come mosquitoes. Inside days, men and women begin falling unwell. Fevers unfold. Youngsters cough at night. A neighbor dies suddenly, his skin yellowed, his lips dry. Rome has no germ conception. However, humans sense whatever in the air. Marcus visits a medicus, a avenue doctor with herbs and leeches. The diagnosis is vague. Humors are imbalanced. The healthcare provider says, bleeding Marcus' arm into a basin. Others turn to the gods. The temple of Apollo is flooded with supplicants. Monks sacrifice white chickens. Augurs learn the entrails. They declare the gods are angry. Choices are improved. Statues are anointed with oil. Processions chant by way of the streets. Ultimately, the floodwaters recede. However, loss of life has already passed via Marcus counts 3 funerals on his road. On my own. His family survives, weakened however intact. 4. Structural cave-in and unexpected death weeks later. As the city rebuilds, another tragedy, longer from nature, however from man's negligence. It's late afternoon. Marcus is passing by means of the Argiletum, carrying a satchel of latest carvings for a service provider client, when a loud crack splits the air, then a roar, and a cloud of dirt. An insula collapses. The upper flooring supply manna first, then the rest folds in like a beaten scroll. Dozens are buried alive. Marcus watches in horror. This, too, shouldn't be distinguished. Landlords reduce corners, walls are weak. Higher flooring are rented cheaply to the poorest residents, migrants or freedmen without a recourse. When an insula falls, few are held in charge. The Senate from time to time debates reform speak limits. Stricter inspections, but bribes and forget override legislation. Marcus joins the rescue effort. They dig with bare fingers, hauling broken beams and roof tiles. They save 2 kids. 4 bodies are implemented. A mom wails for a son whose identity no person remembers. That night time, Marcus stares at the ceiling of his own apartment and wonders how long it would take for the beams to interrupt. Crime in the shadows. The opposite face of romance. Darkness falls, an additional risk stirs. Crime. Whilst Marcus walks house from the bathhouse, a gang of cut purses corners an ancient man. He cries out. One pulls a blade. Marcus hesitates, step in and endanger his own life, or walk away. Before he decides, the cohort's urban Aram's version of police rush. In with torches and brief swords, the thieves scatter. 2 are caught, 1 is beaten. Within the street. Rome is harmful after sunset. The vigils do their pleasant, but they are spread skinny. Marcus avoids targeted alleys, under no circumstances contains more than he desires, and keeps a small knife in his tunic. However, crime isn't continuously from the bad. Bribes, extortion, and abuse by way of minor officials plagued the town. Marcus once had to pay a tax collector twice as soon as for the reputable report, and once to ensure his name was marked competently. The rich exploit the law. The bad are crushed by way of it. Justice exists, but handist for those who can find the money for it. Via religion in fragile things, resilience within the face of chaos, and but via fireplace and flood, starvation, and demise. Marcus continues. For the reason that Roman life will not be handist, has it its resilience. He sharpens his tools, repairs the cracked leg of a stool, replaces a damaged lamp, Livia mends tunics and tells studies to the youngsters of Aeneas braving storms, of Hercules slaying monsters, of Romulus elevating the walls of Rome. They laugh again. They eat simple meals and share watered wine. They sing ancient songs and coach their kids find out how to learn the discussion board walls, how to count exchange at the market, the way to recognize sincere neighbors. When disaster strikes, they mourn, but they rebuild. Consistently. VII. The delicate glory of the eternal city. Marcus stands on the Aventine Hill one morning, watching the solar upward push over town. He sees domes and columns, marble arches and smoke from bakeries. He hears retailers shouting, sandals slapping stone, a priest's chant echoing from the temple of Vesta. He knows the hazards. He has lived them. However, he additionally knows this city, with all its threats and hardships, is his dwelling. His household is here. His reminiscences are here. His ancestors' leisure in its soil. And in some small approach, his lifestyle's unrecorded, normal is a component of the grand messy miracle. That's Rome. Rome survives, since its folks endure, and Marcus, humble plebeian, is considered one of them. The grandeur of Rome dazzles from afar, golden domes, marble pillars, and extravagant villas carved into hillsides. However, for the thousands who reside within its mighty include, the proper empire is measured now, not in triumphal arches or imperial decrease, however in cestices, in labor, in sweat, and no one is aware this better than Marcus, our humble plebeian, neither rich nor destitute, however caught within the complicated net of the Roman economic climate, a world defined via craft, coin, and competitors. Today, like each other workday, Marcus rises early, no longer for glory, but for survival. The city may belong to the emperors, however the employees hold it alive. The arena of Roman labor. Marcus the woodcarver. Marcus is a Fabri Lignario woodworker by trade. He is not a builder of grand villas or warships, however of the small, foremost matters. Stools, bowls, combs, home idols. His workshop is modest only. A wooden stall closed the musculum, the foremost market. As he enters, he runs his give up the instruments of his craft, chisels, planes, ADSS, mallets. Each and every is worn tender with use. Wooden shavings curl on the ground like parchment. The scent of cedar and olive wood fills the air. He starts off evolved his day, repairing a damaged chair brought by a matron from the Avon. Then he carves a suite of Larry's figurines, loved ones, gods requested through a baker for his new residence. In the afternoon, he crafts toy swords for a street dealer, selling to children external the amphitheater. His fingers affliction by using sundown splinters pierce his palms. His again tightens. However he works on there is a point to pay, and mouths to feed. II. The Collegia Rome's ancient guilds. Marcus shouldn't be on my own in his craft. He belongs to a collegium, a professional organization, or guild, a neighborhood of craftsmen, retailers, and workers. The Collegia Fabrorum, the Guild of Woodworkers and Builders, holds usual meetings in a rented hall. They share news, prices, and purchaser leads. Some collegia operate with formal charters, others perform as fraternal societies providing funeral benefits, authorized help, and protection from exploitation. Membership is not only a badge of exchange, it's a lifeline. On the last meeting, they voted to petition the nearby Edile Justice of the Peace about increasing thefts near the market. Marcus remembers the heated debate. Some blamed foreign traders, others the lax patrols of the vigils. Tonight, the Collegium celebrates certainly one of their possess being promoted to foreman. At a building webpage, there's cheap wine, flutes, and singing hard voices filled with delight and fatigue. III. The economy of coin, currency, and price of living. Marcus' day-to-day lifestyles is measured in sesterces. The Roman fiscal system revolves around a complicated hierarchy of coins, as copper, the lowest coin, most likely used for bread or wine. Sestertius, cestus, bronze or brass, the general for many goods. Denarius, silver, worth for Marcus earns 1 or 2 per week. Aureus gold, a fortune for any person like Marcus, not often obvious besides amongst elites. Let's break down Marcus's weekly charges. Object price. In sesterces rent, for insular room 10, sesterces bread and grain for household 5 to 6 sesterces olive oil and legumes, 3 to 4 sesterces public baths, 3x weekly, 1 sesterces youngsters education. Informal to sesterces instance renovation, 1 salt, miscellaneous 2 to 3 sesterces. Excellent week earns him around 20 menos 25 sesterces. Simply ample to get by, means of but one unhealthy wicker delayed fee, a broken instrument, a stolen object, and the whole thing unravels. There are no banks for the poor, no pensions, no insurance. Wealth is measured in immediacy. Are you able to eat in these days? Can you pay employ this month? Can you manage to pay for a healthcare professional if your little one coughs blood? For Marcus, thrift just isn't a virtue, it's a necessity. IV. The informal economic system, barter, favors, and street hustle bellow the reliable economic climate lies in casual world, a marketplace of favors, barter, and under the trades. When Marcus wants a brand new sandal strap, he doesn't pay a cobbler in coins, he presents a carved figurine as an alternative. When Livia needs fresh herbs, she swaps a loaf of spelt bread with the neighbor's daughter, a friend who works close the docks. Lets Marcus know when a grain cargo is late into standing, extra priceless than coin. In return, Marcus helps repair the person's backyard gate. This web of favors isn't simply tradition, it's survival process. Street companies, beggars, water carriers, illegal taverns, in again Alice they kind Rome's second economic climate. The Copone taverns are technically regulated, but most function external the law, delivering food, playing, and companionship for a couple of coppers, and no questions requested. Marcus often sells small carvings at one such tavern. Underneath, candlelight, to passing sailors or board guards. It's not honorable. However, it is sincere work. Females and work. Livia's quiet economy at the same time Marcus works out there. Livia runs her possessed economy at house. She is not a proper member of a guild, however she manages the loved one's funds with precision. She bakes bread, tends a rooftop herb garden, and mends clothing for neighbors for a coin right here. I want their . She teaches the kids to recite letters and rely cash utilizing pebbles. Generally she helps the neighbor's spouse dye wool or easy laundry within the Tiber's cleaner tributaries. In Roman society, ladies' work is most of the time invisible but significant. Without her labor, the household would crumple. She is unpaid, unrecognized by regulation, however significant to every determination. each coin spent.vi, public works and day labor, a dicey gamble not. Every plebeian has a trade, like Marcus many survive, as day workers, waiting every morning, within the discussion board hoping to be picked for, unloading grain at osteopaving, roads cleaning, aqueduct, channel skewering, water urns up flights of stair-shelling marble blocks for a new temple. These jobs are grueling and unsafe. There are not any security necessities, no protective gear, no compensation for injury. Marcus remembers working such jobs in his youth, arms raw from lifting crates, knees bruised from hauling sewer stones. Nonetheless, the pay was instant, 2 or 3 sesterces a day, if lucky. Some days, you waited hours, and were in no way picked. Day labor is just like the cube games within the alleyways. High chance, unsure reward, crime and desperation. The road between work and theft. Work disappears when food runs out. When a point is due, some decide on the opposite route. Marcus has watched excellent guys slip into petty crime, stealing meals from a vendor, pickpocketing within the forum, promoting diluted wine, forging tesserae to fake their grain eligibility. Rome punishes these crimes harshly. A pickpocket probably whipped or branded. A thief might be exiled, enslaved, or thrown into the amphitheater video games as a criminal. Marcus once saw a man chained to a submit, closed the circus, Flaminius, branded as a fur thief. He was once a laborer, identical to Marcus, and so Marcus works harder, longer. He sharpens instruments in candlelight. He accepts unfair offers from richer purchasers. He endures, not in view that it is noble, however, given that it's fundamental. 8th, hope and hustle, goals past survival. Evan, difficulty, Marcus dreams. He goals of owning his own taberna correct workshop with a sign, apprentices, and common purchasers. He desires of in the future relocating to the Janiculum, where properties are sturdier. He dreams of sending his son to a right grammaticus to gain knowledge of Latin literature. Even Greek. Rome is brutal, however it is also full of likelihood. He's heard experiences of freedmen fitting merchants, of former slaves building delivery empires, of craftsmen providing goods to the legions and earning imperial contracts. Each coin saved, every favor earned, is a step towards that dream. Each morning when he opens the shutter and sees the streets of Rome stir conscious, he chooses to preserve going. In view that Rome is figure and Marcus is a worker. If Rome is a laptop loud, quick, and ever increasing, then its gasoline shouldn't be the grandeur of palaces or the thunder of legions, but the quiet rhythm of everyday domestic lifestyles. For millions like Marcus, the beating coronary heart of the empire is just not the Senate or the Colosseum. However, the fireside, beyond the public boards and crowded bathhouses, at the back of the stalls of the Macellum and the gates of temples, lies an extra world, the cramped, however significant, universe of the Roman insulate, condo blocks that house the vast majority of city residents. This is where Marcus lives, the place he eats, sleeps, laughs, issues, and prays, the place he raises his kids and lays his head at night time. At all times listening for the creak of floorboards or the sound of fireside within the partitions. The Roman insula, a residence. Within the sky, Marcus lives on the second ground of a 5-story insulua residential, rental constructing usual of the Subura district, probably the most busiest and roughest neighborhoods in Rome. These structures are most of the time hastily built by landlords, watching 2 apartment as many tenants as viable. From the outside, the insula is a jumbled mess of wooden balconies, cracked plaster, and a patchwork of laundry fluttering within the breeze. Clay pots, wicker baskets, and cages with hens grasped from windows. The scent of frying onions, spoiled milk, and sweat clings to the slender stairwells. Inside of Marcus's condominium is one room, possibly 30 square meters. It serves as bedroom, kitchen, eating room, and workshop. There's no going for walks, water, no confidential latrine, no home windows past a picket shutter. However, it is home. At night time, he sleeps right here with Livia and their 2 youngsters, bundled on straw pallets and wool blankets. For the duration of the day, the room transforms. The bedding is rolled up, and the floor turns into an area for work, for eating, for classes. That isn't much. However, it is theirs, too. Furniture and everyday objects, the material world of the negative within Marcus's residence. Everything has a reason. There is no room for extra. A wood table, hand-carved by means of Marcus himself, dominates the core. They eat here, restore garments right here, coach the children their letters. A number of ceramic jugs line the wall, storing water, oil, and wine. A bronze oil lamp, blackened through years of use, supplies the only artificial light. Cooking is finished over a small clay fireside in the corner. Although it is dicey, many fires in the insulae with careless cooking flames. Shelves developed. Into the wall, preserved dried herbs, a small bag of flour, a worn copy of Aesop's fables, and to crude Lares figurines, loved ones, gods manufactured from timber and clay. A basket of stitching substances sits close. Livia's seatspools of thread, needlework, and scraps of historical tunics. Luxurious is absent. However, so is despair. The whole thing tells a narrative of endurance. The rhythm of domestic lifestyle's morning starts evolved early. Marcus washes with cold water from a basin, whilst Livia prepares bread dough. The kids aid fetch water from the general public fountain 3 blocks away, carrying amphorae on their backs. Breakfast is inconspicuous. Bread dipped in watered-down wine or olive oil. In many instances, dried fruit or cheese. Frequently, simply the bread. Livia then tidies the gap, sweeps the ground with a bundle of twigs, and starts preparations for lunch. She may trade with a neighbor her recent baked bread for a twig of mint or for some additional onions. Midday is quieter. The streets heat up, and the family retreats indoors if feasible. Marcus may just return in brief for a leisure or for a rapid meal if he's working local. That afternoon is full of exercise. Livia does laundry in a shared courtyard, quite often accompanied by means of gossiping neighbors. The children attend in casual classification led via an historic scribe on the ground flooring, the place they practice their abecedarium and common arithmetic on wax tablets. Night is sacred time. Marcus returns, exhausted. The household eats. Collectively, normally a porridge of grain, legumes, and herbs. If they're lucky, there's salted meat or leftover stew. They gentle the oil lamp and offer a prayer on the lararium, giving thanks for one other day without catastrophe. Then they sleep shut together on straw mats, being attentive to the muffled sounds of Rome at night. A dog barking, under the influence of alcohol singing within the alley, a little one crying 2 floors up. IV. Ladies' labor and the engine of the loved ones, thou, invisible in Roman politics. Ladies like Livia are the backbone of Roman domestic existence. Her day is full of unseen labor. She cooks, not just for nourishment, however, to stretch every morsel. She repairs garments, patches sandals, and even weaves linen on a small movable loom. She teaches the children, disciplines them, and maintains them out of obstacle. She trades with neighbors, manages household resources, and maintains an intellectual account of every coin and favor owed. From time to time, she earns small exchange by means of selling surplus bread or through helping neighbors. With laundry, generally, she assists a midwife in trade for flour or veggies. Even as Marcus earns the denari, Livia continues the family financial system without a vacation trips, no pay, and no relaxation. The position of children, learning, labor, and play. Marcus and Livia have 2 youngsters, Lucius, aged 9, and Claudia, aged 6. Roman childhood, mainly amongst plebeians, is short. Kids are expected to make a contribution early. Lucius fetches water, runs errands, and helps his father lift tools. Claudia helps her mother knead dough, wash garments, and type herbs. But there is additionally play. Children in the streets of Rome chase every different with clay dolls, knucklebones, and balls fabricated from rags. They draw traces in the dirt to play counting video games or mimic gladiator battles with sticks. Lucius' goals are fitting a scribe. Claudia loves animals and tends to each stray kitten she finds within the alley. Schooling is informal. A retired scribe on the primary floor teaches them normal Latin, arithmetic, and the occasional fantasy or ethical story. It's not a full education, but it surely is whatever, and Marcus is pleased with their progress. Home rituals. Faith within the house. Faith within the Roman home is inconspicuous, private, and deeply ritualistic. The lararium, a small, loved one's shrine set into the wall or positioned on a wood shelf, is the religious anchor of the rental. It holds miniature statues of Lares and Pinetese spirits of the household and pantry, a small bowl for offerings, fruit, bread, or wine, a lamp symbolizing the light of the ancestors, Each morning, Livia lights the lamp and presents a morsel of meals or a drop of wine. On pageant days, the entire family prays together specifically for the period of the Compitalia or the Saturnalia. They ask for well-being, prosperity, and security from hearth, thieves, and sickness, though they'll every now and then consult. With bigger temples, real Roman piety starts affevelled at dwelling v neighbours, group, and conflict. The insula is a global unto itself, crowded, noisy, alive. Families are living in close quarters. Privateness is infrequent. The neighbour upstairs is a potter. He works late, and clay dirt filters by means of the cracks in the ceiling. Next door, a widow with 4 kids runs a small bread stall. Livia repeatedly helps her bake. In return, the widow watches Claudia when Livia's at the laundry yard. Arguments are original over noise, over shared water, over stolen firewood. But so is camaraderie. When any individual falls unwell, others bring herbs. When a baby is born, neighbors bring presents of garlic and honey. The insula is just not normally sought, but in occasions of trouble, it becomes a lifeline. 8. Dreams of a greater dwelling. Typically, Marcus desires, if anything else, a domus, a proper Roman condominium with a courtyard, partitions of painted plaster, and a tiled roof, walking water, a personal latrine, a position for the kids to develop without worry of fireside or collapse. He is aware of its unlikely, but he saves the place he can. He imagines opening a greater workshop, relocating the family to a cleaner district, perhaps near the Janiculum Hill, the place there are sturdier buildings. Unless then, he focuses on the little improvements: a brand new lid for the water jar, a better broom made of fine reeds, a gift for Livia, a cultured wood comb, carved in secret. Due to the fact, even in problem, the dwelling is sacred. Ix, the hearth at the core of Empire Rome, could also be town of Caesar and Cicero, of marble columns and bloody games. However, for Marcus and his household, its true which means lies within these 4 partitions, not in conquest. However, in quiet routines, no longer in energy, but in loved ones, dinners and shared prayers. No longer in glory, however, in resilience. Right here, inside their modest insular room, the story of Rome unfolds not as epic history, however, as the everyday struggle to reside, love, and undergo. Rome is a city of gods. Their names are carved into stone, whispered in prayers, and shouted in triumph. They journey in chariots via the heavens, watch over harvests and households, and sit beside emperors in their marble thrones. For a citizen, like Marcus, faith will not be a separate part of lifestyles. It's woven into every breath, each regulation, every season. In Rome, faith isn't a matter of notion, it is a matter of participation. The gods don't ask for devotion in solitude. They demand presence, observance, and action. Their benefits hold the order of the cosmos. Their anger can cave in empires. And so, from the humblest beggar to the emperor himself, each Roman has a position to play within the high-quality divine contract that maintains the arena turning. Sacred days and public vacation trips, the Roman competition calendars. Marcus leaves his house one morning. He notices a bad normal energy in the air. Streets are swept, shrines are garlanded, carry offerings. Youngsters are usually not at school, and even the bathhouse opens late. It is the Calenzi, the first day of the month, sacred to Juno, goddess of marriage and protector of the state. But more importantly, in these days marks the starting of the Ludi Romani, the Roman Games, dedicated to Jupiter Optimus Maximus, the king of the gods. Rome's calendar is dotted with greater than 150 religious holidays every year, from the grand spectacles of Saturnalia to imprecise rites, identified simplest to nearby cults. At the present time are usually not only breaks from labor, they are acts of public worship. On festival days, courts may be closed, official trade halts, temples host sacrifices, processions wind via streets, theaters present free plays, chariot races, and gladiator games are held in honor of the gods. These pursuits blur the line between amusement and sacred responsibility. The gods have to be appeased, and the people have fun within the appeasement. A day at the competition. The Ludi Romani. Marcus and his family become a member of the throngs, moving towards the Circus Maximus, the place the Ludi Romani video games are about to begin. The kids wear smooth tunics. Livia includes a small oil lamp to present at the temple of Jupiter. Marcus has introduced a handful of olives and a sprig of laurel. The avenue is stuffed with life. Monks in white robes carry sacred implements. Boys in togas march with their fathers. Vestal virgins are escorted underneath. Protect. Their faces serene. Untouchable. Road carriers shout prices for honeyed desserts and roast sausages. At the altar of Jupiter, a white bull is sacrificed. The air thickens with incense, blood, and divine expectation. The Pontifex Maximus reads omens from the entrails, and augurs wave their staffs at the sky. All signs are favorable. The games. Chariots thunder down the track. Flags wave. Marcus shouts for the blues. Livia watches the crowd greater than the race. Claudia claps her palms and squeals. Lucius counts laps aloud, but it is not best leisure. This, too, is worship. To forget the competition is to insult Jupiter himself. 3. The domestic cult. Worship on the Lariam 1. The general public get-together ends. The household returns house. That evening, Marcus lights the small lamp at the Lararium. There, family shrine. He offers a crust of bread, a pinch of salt, a whispered phrase of thanks. This shrine, though humble, is sacred. It holds collectible figurines of the Lares, guardian spirits of the dwelling, the Pinities, protectors of meals and the pantry. A portrait of Marcus' father, now long past, now remembered. Livia locations contemporary sprigs of rosemary within. The ball. The youngsters bowed their heads. The gods of the state could trip golden chariots. However, these family spirits walked beside them. Each start, dying, meal, and experience starts off evolved with a glance towards the Lararium. Even the emperor honors his household gods. So too must the woodworker. IV. The function of clergyman and priestess. At the same time, Marcus participates in public worship. Rome's rituals are led through a giant priestly classification. Pontifices control calendars, sacrifices, and devout regulation. Augurs interpret omens. Flight, lightning, and entrails. Flamens serve precise gods, akin to Jupiter, Mars, and Quirinus. Vestal virgins. 6 young women chosen in childhood safeguard the everlasting flame of Vesta. Marcus, as soon as glimpsed a Vestal on a festival day, her hair braided in sacred knots, her veil perfectly draped. She did not look at him. She walked like a living image. These priests aren't remoted mystics. They are public figures, appointed from noble families, entwined with politics. And yet, for all their ceremony, it's individuals like Marcus who light candles, present figs, and preserve faith at house. Type. The real backbone of Roman religion. Superstition, magic, and worry. Past the temples and rituals lies one other side of Roman notion, superstition and magic. Marcus avoids jogging underneath detailed arches, spits 3 times if he hears a raven at nighttime, and knots red thread round his daughter's wrist to preserve her from the evil eye. Livia consults an ancient woman on the Palatine when their youngest falls sick. The girl burns sulfur, murmurs Latin prayers, and buries a small carved appeal. Close the door. She asks for no coin, however, accepts a handful of dried fruit and wine. Rome is full of omens. Desires are messages. Beginning defects are portents. Eclipses terrify the city. The calends, nones, and ides are studied cautiously. Magic is illegal when used to damage, but tolerated when used for treatment or security. Many raise amulets with phallic symbols or eyes carved into stone. Even squaddies on crusade wear charms against ghosts. Marcus does now not wholly appreciate the laws of the gods, but he dares no longer offend them via foreign cults and the multicultural faith of Ramalthau. Rome worships its native pantheon. It is an empire of many gods. As Marcus walks by way of the Transtiberum district, he sees temples too. Isis of Egypt, her followers dressed in linen. Mithras, the Persian god of warriors, worshipped in secretive cave-like. Mithria Sibylle, the fine mother, with wild, ecstatic rituals led by eunuch monks. Even followers of a small, international sect called Christiani, who gather quietly and communicate of one God and a crucified Savior. Rome is tolerant, so long as the gods of the state are respected. But there are limits. The Christians, who refuse to sacrifice to the emperor's genius, are already considered with suspicion. Marcus is keen on these overseas faiths, but cautious. He presents wine at the temple of Ceres, as his father did, and prays to Mercury when industry is bad. He believes within the gods of Rome, since Rome itself is their gift. existence, movements, and religious rites, birth, marriage, and demos faith, touches each milestone of Roman life. Start. On the 8th day, a newborn receives a name. Choices are made to Juno, Lucina, or Hercules. Marcus nonetheless remembers the ceremony for Claudia. Olive oil lamps. Laughter. A neighbor providing honey cakes. Marriage. A Roman marriage ceremony is a devout and authorized bond. When Marcus and Livia wed, she used to be led in a veil, protecting a spindle and distaff. 3 witnesses had been gift. Prayers had been made to Juno, protector of ladies. Death. When Marcus's father died, the body was anointed, crowned with flowers, and carried by way of the avenue with song and wailing. A coin used to be placed in his mouth for Corin, ferryman of the lifeless. The funis was once each a ritual and a public event. After demise, the loved ones keeps a 9-day mourning period and honors the deceased yearly. During the parentalia, when the lifeless are offered wine, bread, and plant life. Religion shouldn't be simplest about gods, it's about remembrance. 8th, the emperor and the divine. Faith, as vigor mainly gods, stands the shadow of the emperor, while some, like Augustus, had been cautious to balance humility with divinity. Others embraced godhood. Temples upward push in honor of Divus Julius, and later emperors can be deified upon death. Marcus does not pray to the emperor, however he attends the sacrifices. He pours libations. He wears smooth garments on imperial feast days. To insult the emperor's genius divine spirit is treason, not just heresy. Faith is also politics. The gods uphold the Senate honors the emperor, and the emperor protects the gods. It is a holy land. Marcus walks it carefully. Ix religion as identification what it mannered to be Roman for Marcus. Religion isn't about walk in the park. It is about obligation. He does now not think about the metaphysical. He follows the rites, honors the days, and raises his children to do the same. He does no longer speak of perception, however, of respect, tradition, and piety, pietas. He teaches Lucius to offer salt before a meal. He suggests Claudia methods to bow earlier than a shrine. He reminds them that the gods gave Rome its greatness, that Rome need to supply whatever again. When you consider that to be Roman is to do not forget the gods, and the gods, in flip, recollect you. In a metropolis built on discipline, legislation, and labor, the Roman citizen also hungers for something else. Escape. Life in Rome is hard. Fires, floods, corruption, disorder, and the relentless toil of survival. But even the poorest citizen, like Marcus, the woodcarver of the Subura, is given whatever in return for his loyalty and labor. Entertainment, and not simply any enjoyment, but a spectacle so grand, so visceral, and so constant that it becomes as major as bread itself. The phrase, panem, et circenses bread, and circuses is more than intelligent politics. It is the unspoken contract between the Roman state and its persons. Preserve the bellies full and the minds distracted, and even the oppressed will cheer the emperor's name. For Marcus, these diversions are usually not merely indulgence. They are ritual, release, and a reminder that even the lowest citizen has a position in Rome's great theaterai. The morning of the games. Anticipation within the Erit begins before dawn. Marcus wakes early to join his neighbor Gaius in the winding line, external, the Flavian amphitheater, the Colosseum. Livia stays home to tend the youngsters. She has little love for blood. However, Marcus, like many guys, is drawn to the spectacle, the drama of lifestyles and death performed out in marble and dust. The line snakes around vendors selling dates, olives, and garum professional pastries. Children wave miniature wooden swords. Road musicians play flutes and tambourines. Senators arrive with retinues. Even slaves, permitted to attend on unique days, accumulate in designated tiers. At presence, games are held in honor of Mars, god of struggle. A military commander has backed them after a victorious campaign in Dacia. Town buzzes with patriotic fervor. The games are free. The emperor can pay. That is Rome's contract. 2. The Colosseum monument to managed chaos. As Marcus enters the immense shadow of the Colosseum, he feels small. Its partitions rise virtually 50 meters, ringed with statues and arches. Inside of more than 50,000 residents, the seats organized by way of type. Senators and equestrians near the world flooring. Freeborn male residents above them. Foreigners, freedmen, and women even better, slaves, and the poorest within the topmost, rows if allowed in any respect. Marcus finds his average placement tier not too far from the action, seated on worn stone with countless numbers of others. There's a buzz in the air, excitement blended with bloodlust. The Valerium, a large canvas awning, stretches overhead, protective the group from the solar. Beneath, the world floor is freshly sanded harina, from which the word area comes. The gate creaks open. The show starts. Avaleft 3, the morning application. Beasts of the Empire, the Venetians, or animal hunts, come first. Trumpets blare, a gate opens. A lion costs forth, its mane rippling like flame. The group gasps. Event beast hunter steps into the sand, armed with a spear and guard. The match is swift, brutal, and ends with a roar of approval from the gang. Next, exclusive beasts. Leopards from Numidia, elephants from Africa, crocodiles from the Nile, even a rhinoceros rare and revered, armored like a monster from fable. Marcus watches, enthralled and uneasy. The animals roar, bleed, and die, all to thunderous applause. His neighbor, Gaius, mutters prayers to Diana, protector of beasts. However, cheers, on the other hand. It is a display of Rome's dominion, not simply over men, however, over nature itself. 4. Noon executions, justice within the arena be noon. The video games shift tone. Now come the damnati ad, bestious criminals condemned to dying through wild beasts. These aren't gladiators, however, theater of punishment. One man, accused of murdering a senator, is tied to a stake. A leopard is launched. The gang watches in silence as nature enacts imperial justice. In a different efficiency, actors reenact the parable of Prometheus. However, the actor is a condemned thief, and the eagle that tears at his chest is real. Marcus doesn't cheer in the course of these scenes. He eats a fig and watches grimly. Even in Rome, no longer all entertainments are joyous. Some are reminders. V. Afternoon spectacle. The gladiator video games then. At final, the second most watched for, the gladiators. They enter in pairs or organizations, saluting the presiding professional. Avenue, Imperator, Morituri, te salutant. Hail, Emperor, those people who are about to die salute you. The crowd erupts. These guys are slaves, prisoners of warfare, or volunteers seeking status and fortune. They belong to varsities ludi, gladiatori and are educated like squaddies. Each fighter is a character. Though heavy armor and broad sword threats with curved blade and small protectorisi areas, web and trident. Combating like a fisherman. SEC2R, designed to hunt the Riciarius with streamlined armor. The group picks favorites. Bets are positioned. Marcus roots for a Gaulish Mirmillo, tall and grim, dealing with a wiry Riciarius from Hispania. The healthy is speedy and brutal. Blood spatters the sand. The Gaul falls to at least one knee. All eyes turn to the editor, the sponsor of the video games. He looks to the crowd, thumbs turned. The group cries, Ugula, kill him. The blade strikes. A spasm, then stillness. The group cheers. A litter gets rid of the physique. Sand is raked. One more pair enters. Vi. The function of women and children in Amazemtwile. Guys dominate the front row fervor. Ladies and kids aren't any strangers to Roman spectacle. Livia not often attends gladiator games, preferring theater and devout festivals, but she and the kids do discuss with theaters, musical performances, and public lectures. The theater of Pompey levels tragedies and comedies, from Greek classics to Bodhi, Roman farces, masks, exaggerated gestures, and slapstick humor, satisfaction. Claudia, although Livia prefers moral testimonies and romantic tragedies, at nighttime, public squares host storytellers, illusionists, and acrobats. Children accumulate in circles, munching roasted nuts, eyes wide with wonder, even at residence. Marcus carves wooden toys and tells experiences of Hercules, Odysseus, and Romulus. Entertainment as culture. VII. The baths, social existence. As entertainmentos bli, Rome's most democratic entertainment lies no longer in arenas. However, within the baths. Marcus visits the baths of Titus twice per week, when cash allow. For a small rate, he features entry to the Apoditerium changing room, the Tepidarium warm room, the Caldarium sizzling tub, the Frigidarium bloodless plunge. However, baths are greater than hygiene. They are social hubs. Merchants speak about deals. Politicians whisper alliances. Gossip spreads faster than fire. Therapeutic massage, video games, even poetry readings occur in corners of the steam. Marcus meets historic Navy friends, trades tools with other artisans, and usually easily closes his eyes and lets go. 8th, private enjoyment, track, cube, and home pleasano. Not all joy is public at residence. After dinner, Marcus may play knucklebones with Lucius or teach Claudia methods to carve letters in delicate wax. Livia hums a lullaby handed from her grandmother, eyes on the lamp flame. Frequently, neighbors visit and share reviews or a jug of watered wine. Song fills alleyways, flutes, lutes, even water organs. Wandering poets recite verses of Virgil or Ovid for cash. Cube games, although unlawful for citizens, are performed in backwards bets whispered. Even laughter at a badly advised joke or a shared story of a metropolis magistrate's scandal turns into a form of comfort, on the grounds that leisure in Rome isn't just pleasure, it's survival, Ike's escapism, and control. The politics of pleasure, the emperor knows this well. Enjoyment is greater than generosity, it is method. Each and every recreation, race, or feast is a reminder. Rome supplies. In Flip, Rome needs loyalty. The games honor the gods, have a good time, victories, and distract from rising grain costs, avenue fires, and political scandal. Marcus is aware of the system. He does now not love the cruelty of the Colosseum, but he attends. Due to the fact in those moments of roaring applause, he feels part of something greater, citizen among 1,000s, in the shadow of gods and emperors, cheering as if his voice mattered. For an hour, he forgets a point. He forgets starvation. He forgets his cracked palms and aching back. For an hour, he's quite simply Roman. The Roman Empire is immense. However, to Marcus as a normal citizen and woodcarver, the arena is Roman. Rome is a maze. Its grandeur does not stay in silence or order. It's noise, motion, and density. It's the sound of sandals slapping on stone, of carts rattling over cobbles, of bakers yelling out their wares, of dogs barking, bells chiming, and men and women living their lives tightly packed underneath the shadow of temples and tenements. To live in Rome is to navigate its daily streets, markets, boards, and buildings. It is to learn its pulse like a second language, to know where to head, when to attend, and the way to outlive in a city that never real sleeps. The streets awake. A morning journey by way of Rome. Marcus starts his day now not with silence, however with cacophony. The second he leaves his insula within the Subura district, the streets are already unsleeping. The Via Argiletum, a foremost street connecting the Subura to the Roman discussion board, is bustling. Grocers are unpacking fruit carts, kids are chasing every other list, and street sweepers are attempting on failed to clear last night's grime. The streets of Rome are slender, most likely unpaved, and hardly ever clean. Human waste, animal droppings, discarded meals, and damaged pottery littered the edges. Water flows down central gutters when it rains if it doesn't flood. Marcus steps cautiously, dodging puddles and passing wagons pulled by way of donkeys, shouting providers, and men hauling amphorae on their shoulders. He knows which alleys to hinder, where thieves lurk or taverns spill drunkards onto the cobblestones. Roman infrastructure, roads, sewers, and aqueducts regardless of its chaos. Rome is a wonder of engineering. Marcus walks atop a network of roads designed with mathematical precision, developed in layers stone, gravel, sand for drainage and durability, lined with milestones and curbstones that help arrange site visitors. Elevated sidewalks, separate pedestrians from carts and dust when not crowded by way of stalls. Beneath his FT flows the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's significant sewer method. Although it can't absolutely cleanse the town, it is an innovation most other cities within the empire can simply dream of. And above, arches of the aqueducts crisscross town, bringing water from faraway hills to public fountains. Bathhouses.latrines.some. Fortunate properties with exclusive plumbing. Marcus more often than not fills his family amphora from a public nymphaeum near the discussion board, marveling at the smooth stream of water cascading from stone lions' mouths. The water of Rome strikes, feeds, cleans, and impresses. It is the quiet vigor of the city. 3. The Forum, Rome's beating heart. At the finish of his walk, Marcus enters the discussion board. Romanima situation he passes daily, but under no circumstances takes with no consideration. Right here, on this relatively small, however symbolically great space, all layers of Roman life intersect. Temples to Saturn, Castor and Pollux, and Vesta tower above. Basilicas echo with legal arguments. Graffiti scratches the walls, love poems. Political jabs, obscene jokes. Senators pass in palanquins at the same time. Beggars prolong whole fingers. Providers sell figs, scrolls, and wax drugs. The rostra, the speaker's platform, hosts orators, some practiced, some ranting. Marcus listens whilst he eats his bread, one half amused, half moved by means of the drama of it. He has passed emperors right here, far away and regal. He has noticeable triumphal parades, with generals in golden armor, white horses pulling chariots, and chained captives trailing in the back of Dot. This is Rome's entrance stage, and every citizen performs a stroll-on function. 4. Markets and bazaars. Towns, stomach. No. Not a long way from the discussion board lies the primary market. Marcus's tools are most often bought by using merchants right here. He walks its lanes, typically, inhaling the fragrance of fruit, fish, blood, and spices. It's chaotic. Butchers wave cleavers underneath, placing carcasses. Bakers advertise honeyed cakes and flatbread, nonetheless, steaming from clay ovens. Green shout about lentils, onions, and herbs. Fragrance dealers present olive oil, infused with rose, myrrh, or cinnamon. Overseas traders sell silk from China, incense from Arabia, and pepper from India. Marcus knows the Masalam well. He bargains tough, consistently calculating He additionally is aware of which stalls to prevent, who waters down wine, who cheats on weights, who steals from distracted mothers. It is here that he hears information, sees familiar faces, and learns town's temperature now, not the weather, but the MOODV tenements and neighborhoods. Urban category. Dividus Hauthout. Rome is a city of millions. It's a city of layers. The Subura, the place Marcus lives, is crowded, noisy, vibrant, and harmful. It is house to artisans, day laborers, prostitutes, and taverns. The Aventine Hill residences. The working class, however, is quieter and more organized. The Esquiline Hill, as soon as a slum, has been reformed by using Emperor Augustus, now full of gardens and higher housing. The Palatine Hill towers in particular, house to emperors, aristocrats, and their sprawling domus villas. The Transtiberan district, throughout the Tiber River, is dwelling to immigrants, foreigners, and cult worshippers. Marcus not often climbs the Palatine, although he's worked on furnishings for villas there. From its heights, the city spreads like a sedum's columns, and smoke spiraling from hundreds and hundreds of chimneys. He desires of relocating to the event, no longer for repute, but for cleaner air and more advantageous partitions. Vi. Public structures, temples, baths, and libraries. Rome's greatness is developed not simply on politics or conquest, but on public architecture. The Pantheon AWS. Marcus, whenever he passes its big dome and open oculus, it is like standing underneath the attention of Jupiter himself. He tells Lucius, the baths of Agrippa near the Campus Martis provide remedy for physique and soul. Marcus visits after lengthy days, soaking amongst senators and slaves alike. The Porticus Octavia and adjoining libraries permit free entry to scrolls and potential. Although Marcus is barely literate, he marvels on the columns, the cool color, the mosaics of Apollo. These constructions remind him that Rome belongs to its citizens, no longer simply as a metropolis, however, as an inspiration. VII. Night, within the metropolis shadows and risks. As nightfall falls, Rome changes. Torches flicker, oil lamps glow from windows. However, most streets are darkish lit, only intermittently by the moon or passing patrols. The vigils, Rome's fire brigade and watchmen, roam with buckets and cudgels. They're poorly paid and regularly corrupt, however better than nothing. Marcus moves turbo at night. He is aware of experiences of cut purses in alleys, drunks spoiling for a combat, fires that leap from one insula to yet another. Earlier than a shout will also be raised. One evening, coming back from a buddy's dwelling, Marcus helps a girl screaming. From a 2D estuary window, her lamp has tipped and caught the curtain. He calls the vigils and climbs a ladder. The hearth is small, however, the hazard is real. Even now, his kids observe fire drills. Livia maintains a sack of necessities under the mattress. Night just isn't for amusement. It's for warning. 8. action and journey. Getting around Rome there are not any carriages for natural residents. Marcus strikes via foot his most reliable tool, litter rented only for emergencies or luxury. From time to time, wagon journey when offering items. Carts and wagons are banned from the streets. During daylight hours to ease congestion. At night, nonetheless, their rattling wheels make sleep nearly inconceivable in tenement districts. Journey inside Rome is sluggish. Distance is measured now, not in miles, but in humans' density, road measurement, and obstruction. A walk that might take 10 minutes on a quiet morning can take an hour throughout a feast day. Marcus plans his routes cautiously. He avoids bottlenecks. He is aware of when the discussion board Boreum floods, or when a senator's funeral will block traffic close. The Appian Gate. In Rome, relocating by way of space is an art kind. IX Rome is a living machine to outsiders. Rome is a monument. But to Marcus, it's a machine alive, grinding. Vast. Each constitution has purpose. Roads bring grain. Forums settle disputes. Aqueducts feed fountains. Tenements house staff. Temples bless labor. Theaters unlock sorrow. Markets feed mouths. Marcus lives inside of this desktop now, not as a cog, however, as a participant. He is aware of its shortcuts and sounds. He curses its flaws, but defends it in opposition to foreign insults. He isn't wealthy. He does not vote in the Senate. However, he belongs to Rome, and Rome by some means belongs to him. Whilst structures collapse and emperors rise and fall, town endures. When you consider that Rome just isn't marble, Rome is movement, and Marcus is constantly moving. Rome is a city constructed on commerce. Below, the grandeur of marble temples and effective arches. Below the roar of the Colosseum and the solemn prayers within the discussion board lies a consistent hum, the clatter of tools, the shouts of merchants, and the scurry of tradesmen who maintain town alive. For Marcus, this hum is the track of everyday lifestyles. It is the sound of timber being carved, bread being baked, cloth being woven, and cash being exchanged. It's the pulse of the Roman economy. It's monstrous and intimate, international and regional. This chapter unfolds the everyday work of a natural Roman citizen, the trades and markets that preserve him, and the complicated economy that powers the eternal metropolis. Marcus's craft. A woodcarver's life. Marcus is a woodworker, modest profession. However, principle, from the easy tools for farmers to intricate furniture for retailers, his fingers form the living wooden that fills Roman properties. His workshop is a small area, a corner of his condo that doubles as his place of work and manufacturing facility. Here, a rough wood bench is stained with pine, resin, and sawdust. Chisels and knives cling on the wall. Shavings curl on the ground. A creel of ochre planks waits patiently in the nook. He starts a fevelled early on a daily basis, measuring, cutting, and carving. Present, he crafts a collection of table legs for a wealthy customer on the Palatine. Tomorrow, it might be a small chest for Livia, or a picket toy for Lucius. Though he goals of a larger workshop, he knows the boundaries. Rome's markets are aggressive. His popularity relies on best and honesty. 2. Guilds and collegia, the bonds of tradesmen like many craftsmen. Marcus belongs to a collegium, a guild of woodworkers, that meets weekly in a nearby shrine. These collegia are greater than trade unions. Their social golf equipment, religious businesses, and political entities. They set requisites of work. Regulate costs and competition. ID contributors in health problem or hassle. Offer collective prayers to patron gods like Vulcan or Minerva. Furnish funerary rites. Marcus attends conferences not only for trade, however, to share news and be taught new strategies. He sometimes participates in competitions, carving contests. Backed via rich patrons, the Collegium presents defense in a metropolis where character tradesmen can without difficulty be lost sight of. 3. Markets and merchants, the lifeblood of exchange. Marcus buys raw materials on the discussion board. Boreum, the cattle market, and the Porticus Aemilia, Rome's grain storage warehouses. Wood is procured outside the town, from forests in Latium and beyond. Retailers arrange transport via river or road. Each and every cargo is cautiously weighed, inspected, and taxed. Costs fluctuate with demand, and the emperor's policies. Not too long ago, taxes on lumber have extended to fund new aqueducts. Marcus knows to haggle hard. Every sesta saved is bread on the desk. Merchants themselves are a diversified lot. Rich negotiators who spend money on ships and warehouses. Road hawkers promoting wood combs or sandals. Slaves tasked with loading and unloading. Cargo. Exchange is each neighborhood and global. Rome imports spices from India, silk from China, wine from Gaul, olive oil from Hispania. Rome is a metropolis of action, and trade is its bloodstream. IV. The position of slaves and freedmen in Marcus's workshop relies on aid from a freedman, a former slave now granted liberty, however, nonetheless tied by using obligation. This assistant mixes glue, sands surfaces, and sometimes can provide items. Freedmen more commonly make up the backbone of urban labor, skilled artisans, clerks, or merchants. Slaves, however, stay mostly invisible in commerce, except owned by way of rich merchants or used in workshops. Some slaves are enormously expert, their work major but uncredited. Marcus respects his freedmen, conscious that freedom is fragile. Many freedmen try to earn citizenship, possess property, and protect their families. Everyday movements, balancing work and family work, is difficult, and hours are lengthy. Marcus starts or faveled at dawn, pauses mid-morning for a fast meal of bread and olives, resumes until midday, then breaks for the afternoon. He gives you a finished chair to a local villa, visits the marketplace for supplies, then returns dwelling to repair instruments and plan tomorrow's projects. Evenings are for family, leisure, and low visits to the baths. Livia manages loved ones' money owed and helps with minor repairs. The children study with the aid of staring at and helping. As Marcus teaches Lucius to carve simple shapes, though there is little amusement, there is pride in craftsmanship and honest toil. Vi. The economic climate of small business challenges and possibilities. Marcus is a small-scale entrepreneur. He does no longer own a store or warehouse. His trade is dependent upon status and phrase of mouth. He faces challenges, competition for more cost-effective foreign imports, taxes levied by means of local magistrates, occasional theft of tools or materials, fluctuating demand because of political unrest or financial downturn, yet opportunities exist. Commissioned work from rich consumers, items and favors exchanged in collegia, rising urban population, increasing demand for furniture and items. Ambition is cautious. A greater workshop could mean hiring slaves or apprentices, however that requires capital. For now, he survives and plans. 7. The wider Roman financial system, imperial scale. While Marcus works in the community, the Roman economic climate is a tremendous network. Grain shipments from Egypt feed thousands. Olive oil from Hispania fills. Amphorae. Quality pottery travels from Athens to Gaul. Coins minted in Rome flow into through provinces. The emperor controls many features. Rate controls on bread. Tax collection by way of publicani. Tax farmers. Legislation of markets and trade routes. The financial system is each dynamic and fragile, liable to conflict, famine, and politics. Marcus watches information from the provinces with interest and quandary. A bad harvest in Egypt approach bread shortages right here. 8th. Barter, credit score, and foreign money. Cash-in, general denarii, and sestatiar, original. Many transactions arise through barter or credit. Marcus often accepts alternate of items, a basket of eggs for a repaired chair. Credit score expanded through merchants or purchasers. Loans from household or collegium. Contributors. Cash is invaluable and frequently scarce. The emperor's coinage, stamped together with his face, is a logo of trusteate. In many instances coins are clipped or counterfeited, complicating trade. Monetary prudence is key to survival. Worker's identity, pride and rationale. For Marcus, work is greater than survival. It is identity. His fingers bear scars and calluses. His clothes lift sawdust. His voice is hoarse from shouting over saws and hammers. Yet each and every completed chair, every carved leg, is a declaration, a testament to talent, a reward to loved ones, a stake in the pleasant city. By way of labor, Marcus claims his position in Rome no longer as a senator or a slave, however, as a citizen contributing to the empire's monstrous mosaic. Rome is a city of hundreds of thousands, yet for Marcus, it is usually the small world of his family, friends, and local within the vastness of the empire. It is the individual connections, the bonds of blood and community that shape everyday existence, provide aid, and forge identity. In this chapter, we discover the intimate rhythms of family existence, social customs, and the tricky web of relationships that hold Rome collectively. From the bottom UPI, the Roman loved ones. The domus and the insula. Marcus lives in a modest insula, a crowded condominium constructing stacked high with cramped rooms and slim stairways. Although small and noisy, it is house. In distinction. The wealthy are living in sprawling domostone residences with courtyards, fountains, and more than one rooms for dining, snoozing, and pleasing. For Marcus, the insula is a hive of shared existence. Neighbors trade, greetings, and gossip. Children play within the alleys. Families share assets and information. Lifestyles right here is intimate however crowded. A combo of cooperation and clash. 2. The position of the paterfamilias, the coronary heart of Roman family lifestyles, stands. The paterfamilias, the male head of household, who holds authorized authority over wife, youngsters, slaves, and property. Marcus assumes this role with responsibility and pride. He oversees household, finances, makes choices about work and education, conducts devout rituals at the lararium, represents the household in public affairs. Although his authority is high, Marcus additionally is aware the negotiation required in everyday lifestyles. Livius' tips is valued. Children's desires are negotiated with patience. 3. Marriage and partnership. Marcus and Livia's marriage is both private and social contract. Their union was arranged with input from households. However, over time, it grew into partnership. Livia manages the loved ones, cares for the kids, and oversees meals and apparel. Marriage ceremonies contain the bride's veil. The becoming a member of Hofhands. Offerings to Juno. Although love is not consistently the foundation, recognize and cooperation maintain the bond. 4. Children and education. Marcus and Livia have 2 kids, Lucius, a boy of 10, and Claudia, aged 8. Schooling is sensible, reading and writing in wax, capsules, finding out family trades, memorizing prayers and customs, playing video games that instruct self-discipline. Formal schooling is rare for commoners. Mum and dad and neighbors educate talents and values. Marcus' goals of literacy for Lucius. Figuring out it'll open doors. Socializing and nearby existency in the regional social lifestyles is active. Neighbors acquire in taverns or courtyards to share foods and drinks. Fairs deliver the community together for feasts and games. Evenings could include storytelling. Singing. Discussions about politics or gossip. Social networks provide security and joy, but also competition and contention. Patronage and customer relationships past family. Roman society depends closely on patronage. Marcus is a patron to a local customer, wealthier artisan who presents safety, favors, and business possibilities in trade for loyalty and service. This relationship shapes social standing and fiscal security. Consumers attend their purchasers' movements, help political ambitions, and shield their honor. Religion, as social glue. Devout observant is both public and exclusive. Bind households and communities. Marcus's family participates in galas, sacrifices, and family rites that enhance identification and belonging. The collegiate guilds also serve social functions, supplying aid, past work. Challenges and hardships. Loved ones. Lifestyles shouldn't be without trials. Sickness, poverty, and political unrest can pressure bonds. Marcus fears the plague, theft, and fire. He works difficult to look after his family, to hold meals on the desk, and to make certain their future. Celebrations and milestones. Lively is marked via celebrations, birthdays, devout galas, weddings. Funerals. These events are times for pleasure, reflection, and reaffirmation of group ties. Legacy and reminiscence. Marcus hopes to go away. A legacy, teaching. Lucius, the trade, passing on family values, honoring ancestors via ritual. In Rome, household is not virtually today, it's about continuity. In Rome, faith is woven into every aspect of life. It is not only a topic of faith, however, a public obligation, a supply of identity, and a method of rituals that connect the mortal world with the divine. For Marcus, the gods are gift now not most effective in majestic temples and grand fairs, but within the quiet corners of his residence and the day-to-day decisions of his life. This chapter explores the complex and layered religious practices of typical Roman citizens, revealing an international where the sacred and the mundane meet. The Roman pantheon gods. For each part of life, Rome's gods are many, each and every with precise powers and personalities. Jupiter, king of gods, wielder of thunder. Juno, protector of marriage and ladies. Minerva, goddess of knowledge and crafts. Mars, god of warfare and protector of Rome. Vesta, guardian of the fireside and home. Mercury, god of commerce and travelers, and numerous others, including overseas deities absorbed by way of conquest. Marcus and his household honor many of those gods by means of prayers, choices, and festivals, searching for favor and protection. 2. Loved ones worship the Lararium, and every day rituals at the coronary heart of Marcus's house is the Lararium, a small shrine dedicated to the Lares and Penates, the protecting spirits of the household and pantry. Each and every morning, Marcus presents incense, sprinkles wine, and speaks a prayer for the safeguard and prosperity of his family. Livia continues the sacred flame of Vesta within their fireplace, symbolizing the household's lifestyles and cohesion. These rituals, although easy, create a sacred rhythm in daily life. 3. Fairs and public faith. Rome's calendar is filled with fairs days when the town pulses with devout vigor. Saturnalia, a wintry weather feast reversing social roles. Lupercalia, celebrating fertility and purification. Feriae Latini, honoring the gods of the nation-state. Consuelia, regarding agriculture and horses, and plenty of more, commonly tied to politics and army routine. Marcus and his family take part, eagerly attending processions, sacrifices, and communal feasts. Public festivals support social cohesion, remind residents of Rome's divine desire, and mark the passage of time. IV. The function of priests and religious officers. Religion is run by means of an intricate hierarchy. Pontifices, chief priests overseeing rites. Augurs, who interpret omens. Flamens, monks dedicated to detailed gods. Vestals, priestesses guarding the sacred fireplace. Marcus respects these officers, who function mediators between gods and mortals. Sometimes, political choices hinge on devout interpretations, demonstrating the vigor of religion in governance. Divination and omens. Romans take omens significantly. Bird flights, lightning, goals, and entrails of sacrificed animals are studied to divine the will of the gods. Before battles, journeys, or industry deals, Marcus could seek advice, an augur, or notice portents. This steady seek for signs displays Rome's want to manage destiny and maintain concord. Thriller, cults, and foreign religions bind ordinary Roman faith. The city hosts numerous beliefs, the Mithraic mysteries, secretive and well known amongst the cult of Isis, imported from Egypt. Early followers of Christianity, meeting discreetly. Marcus hears whispers of those practices, however, remains cautious. Religious plurality provides complexity to Roman spiritual life. Death and the afterlife. Funeral rites and beliefs. Death is solemn and communal. Marcus's household prepares funerals with prayers, offerings, and processions. The useless are buried outside the town partitions, usually alongside the Via Appia. Beliefs about the afterlife range. Some expect a shadowy existence in the underworld. Others search immortality by means of memory and honor. Funerary rites toughen family bonds and respect for ancestors. 8th, faith as a source of comfort and identification. For Marcus, faith presents more than duty. It presents remedy in occasions of trouble, a framework for figuring out the world, and a connection to something higher. The rituals supply structure to his lifestyles, a way of place within the tremendous empire. Conflicts and controverse. Faith may additionally divide. Conflicts arise when new gods venture ancient traditions. Political leaders usually manipulate religion for power. Marcus navigates these tensions carefully, balancing respect with private notion. The sacred and the everyday. Ultimately, Roman faith is inseparable from daily life, from waking prayers to public festivals, from home shrines to imperial temples. Religion shapes Rome's culture, politics, and identity. Marcus's story reveals that faith is not far off dogma, however lived expertise. Food is greater than sustenance in Rome. It's an image of social status, a supply of delight, and an imperative part of everyday life. For Marcus and his loved ones, Meals mark the rhythm of their day, from easy breakfasts to occasional feasts, celebrating God's births or victories. This chapter explores the flavors, customs, and challenges of Roman dining, offering a taste of the eternal city's culinary world. The daily food plan: easy, seasonal, and regional. Marcus's foods are modest, however nourishing. Ordinary staples comprise bread, more often than not coarse and produced from barley or wheat; pulse, a porridge of spelt or lentils; olives and cheese; greens like cabbage, leeks, and onions; occasional fish or eggs; fruit, when in season, figs, grapes, apples. Meat is a luxury, not often eaten via long-established folks. Meals are flavored with herbs, honey, and garum, a fermented fish sauce prized for the period of the empire. Meal, constitution, breakfast, lunch, and dinarientaculum, a mild breakfast of bread and water, repeatedly fruit or cheese. Prondium, noon meal, almost always bloodless, leftovers, bread or eggs. Cena, the major meal served late afternoon or early evening, more commonly shared with loved ones and normally neighbors. Marcus's cena might incorporate a vegetable stew, bread dipped in olive oil, a small portion of fish. Water, or diluted wine. 3. Cooking and kitchen lifestyles. Livia manages the kitchen. With talent, cooking is completed over a small fireside or transportable stove. Utensils include clay pots, bronze pans, knives, and wood spoons. Fuel, traditionally charcoal or wooden, is scarce and cautiously rationed. Cooking is labor-intensive, peculiarly during iciness or festivals. Markets and meals provide. Marcus and Livia purchase meals every day at local markets. Recent produce arrives via cart from surrounding farms. They pick the first-class fruits, veggies, and grains they can have enough money. Meals safety is a main issue, spoiled or contaminated. Gadgets can rationale sickness. Meals and social reputative displays. Category in Rome: wealthy citizens revel in problematic dinners with exclusive ingredients: peacock, dormice, imported spices, and exceptional wines. Commoners like Marcus make do with humble fare, but usually indulge during galas. Food is a social equalizer and divider. Feasts and festivals. Now and again, Marcus's nearby hosts communal feasts for devout or civic celebrations. These are instances of abundance: roasted pork or lamb, flatbreads and sweets, singing and dancing. Such gatherings strengthen community bonds and offer relief from day-to-day complication. Consuming water, wine, and more. Water is drawn from public fountains, but in general mixed with wine to avert illness. Wine varies in exceptional, poorer residents drink watered-down models. Wealthy experience nice vintages stored in amphorae. Wine is consumed socially, often with modest toasts and dialogue. Food taboos and customs. Distincted foods and practices have devout or cultural value. For illustration, pork is preferred for sacrifices. Distinct days forbid meat. Consuming manners are taught early. The proper hand. Reclining for the duration of foods for the wealthy. The challenges of starvation and shortage. Regardless of Rome's wealth, food shortages occur. Terrible harvests, excessive taxes, or political instability can lead to famine. Marcus and Livia generally fear concerning the fee and availability of staples. The owner Rome's grain dole presents relief to a couple, however, is confined. Food as identity and memory for Marcus. Meals is tied to home, family, and way of life. Recipes, handed down from Livia's mum. The style of fresh bread from the baker. The scent of herbs are comforts. Meals grounds him within the metropolis, connects him to Rome's historical past, and nourishes both body and soul. Within the coronary heart of Rome, amid the clamor of retailers, the roar of the group, and the tireless hum of artisans, one regular stays, the everyday ritual of food. For Marcus and his loved ones, food is just not without problems. Nourishment it is a symbol of survival, neighborhood, popularity, and social gathering. Through the cycles of meals, the rhythm of seasons, and the grandeur of festivals, the style of Rome shapes existences, joys, and struggles alike. In this chapter, we discover the daily diets, cooking customs, food markets, social significance of foods, and the festive feasts that punctuate lifestyles within the eternal metropolis. The Roman weight reduction plan. Simple, seasonal, and regional. Meals are humble but hearty. reflecting his repute as a working-type craftsman. The day-to-day fare is developed around staple elements that preserve hundreds of thousands in a city of over 1 million inhabitants. Grains. The groundwork of most foods is grain barley for the poorer courses, wheat if low-priced. Bread is most often coarse and dense, made by way of nearby bakers or at house. Pulse, a porridge made from boiled grains or legumes, is a original and filling dish. Veggies and legumes. Greens like cabbage, leeks, onions, garlic, lentils, chickpeas, and beans provide principal vitamin. These are cooked in simple stews or eaten contemporary. Fruits, relying on the season. Marcus's loved ones could enjoy figs, apples, grapes, pomegranates, or pears. Fruit is more commonly eaten uncooked or dried. Olive oil. Olive oil is a key ingredient used for cooking, dressing salads, and keeping meals. It adds flavor and richness to, in any other case, undeniable dishes. Fish and meat. Meat is a luxurious rarely afforded through commoners. Fish, particularly salted or dried sorts, is extra-fashioned and often incorporated in meals. Once in a while, Marcus would buy eggs or small parts of meat for the duration of fairs or specific occasions. Condiments. A ubiquitous flavoring is garum, a pungent fermented fish sauce, used very like modern soy sauce or ketchup. It is discovered on tables across Rome, from patrician villas to humble insulae.ii. The constitution of everyday meals. Roman ingredients are structured and ordinary. Yentaculum breakfast, a modest morning meal, most of the time bread with honey, olives, or cheese accompanied via watered-down wine or water. Many Romans pass this meal or preserve it very light, certainly if their work starts a feveled early. Prondium lunch, a gentle noon meal, usually eaten bloodless. Leftovers from the earlier day, fruits, bread, and perhaps eggs or vegetables. It's functional and designed to not disrupt the day's labor. Cena dinner, the essential meal, consumed in the late afternoon or night. For Marcus, cena is a loved one's affair, a time to accumulate round a easy desk, share meals, and exchange information. This meal might incorporate stewed greens, bread, cheese, occasionally fish, and fruit for dessert. 3. Cooking and meals. Guidance. Livia, Marcus's wife, manages the kitchen, a small, almost always smoky room dominated through a clay hearth. Cooking is completed over an open flame, or a portable range called a fuel is scarce and important. Timber or charcoal is rationed carefully. The kitchen comprises clay pots, bronze pans, knives, and picket utensils. Water is fetched from the regional fountain, and all food must be all set fresh day to day because of lack of refrigeration. Maintenance procedures incorporate salting fish, drying fruits, and pickling vegetables. Though easy, these approaches ensure some sort and longevity of meals. Presence. IV. Markets and meals give chance each morning. Marcus or Livia visits neighborhood markets within the Subura or close the discussion board. Markets in Rome are a hive of activity. Carriers name out their wares, carts piled high with fruits, vegetables, bread, and salted fish line the streets. Cattle markets sell cattle, sheep, and poultry. Specialized shops present olive oil, wine, honey, and spices. Food arrives from all corners of the empire, grain from Egypt and North Africa, olive oil from Hispania and southern Italy. Fish from the Mediterranean, extraordinary. Spices and fruits from the east. Marcus have to bargain carefully, balancing rate with satisfactory. Food prices can fluctuate due to supply shortages or political unrest, impacting his household's food plan. The social means of food in Rome. What you devour and the way you consume marks your place in society. The rich host complex convivia bank with multiple guides, exceptional dishes, enjoyment, and hours of dining. The middle and decreased classes devour easier, more repetitive foods concerned with sustenance. Sharing meals strengthens loved ones and group ties. Festivals and public feasts stage social variations quickly, inviting every person to partake in abundance. Marcus typically hears gossip in the markets about luxurious feasts hosted by means of senators or generals. Although such extravagance is past his means, he enjoys listening to stories and glimpses of that world. 5. Festivals and feasts. Celebrations of food and religion. Roman galas are moments of joyous abundance and communal bonding. For the duration of movements like Saturnalia, Food flows freely: roasted pork and lamb, candy, truffles, and honeyed treats. Wine freely poured, communal tables set in the streets. These feasts celebrate the gods, seasonal cycles, or army victories. Marcus treasures these occasions, when day-to-day hardships soften, and even the bad believe the city's generosity. Wine, water, and consuming customs. Water in Rome is more commonly drawn from public fountains or aqueduct-fed sources. Nonetheless, due to concerns about purity, it's most likely blended with wine. Wine varies in excellent and force. Negative residents drink diluted or sour wine. Wealthier Romans enjoy first-rate vintages. Consuming is social and ritualized, accompanied via toasts and conversation. Marcus enjoys small cups of watered wine with associates after a long day's work. Food is greater than sustenance in Rome. It's an image of social status, a supply of delight, and an imperative part of everyday life. For Marcus and his loved ones, meals mark the rhythm of their day, from easy breakfasts to occasional feasts, celebrating God's births or victories. This chapter explores the flavors, customs, and challenges of Roman dining, offering a taste of the eternal city's culinary world. The daily food plan: easy, seasonal, and regional. Marcus's foods are modest, however nourishing. Ordinary staples comprise bread, more often than not coarse and produced from barley or wheat; pulse, a porridge of spelt or lentils; olives and cheese; greens like cabbage, leeks, and onions; occasional fish or eggs; fruit, when in season, figs, grapes, apples. Meat is a luxury, not often eaten via long-established folks. Meals are flavored with herbs, honey, and garum, a fermented fish sauce prized for the period of the empire. Meal, constitution, breakfast, lunch, and dinerentaculum, a mild breakfast of bread and water, repeatedly fruit or cheese. Prondium, noon meal, almost always bloodless, leftovers, bread or eggs. Cena, the major meal served late afternoon or early evening, more commonly shared with loved ones and normally neighbors. Marcus's cena might incorporate a vegetable stew, bread dipped in olive oil, a small portion of fish. Water, or diluted wine. 3. Cooking and kitchen lifestyles. Livia manages the kitchen. With talent, cooking is completed over a small fireside or transportable stove. Utensils include clay pots, bronze pans, knives, and wood spoons. Fuel, traditionally charcoal or wooden, is scarce and cautiously rationed. Cooking is labor-intensive, peculiarly during iciness or festivals. Markets and meals provide. Marcus and Livia purchase meals every day at local markets. Recent produce arrives via cart from surrounding farms. They pick the first-class fruits, veggies, and grains they can have enough money. Meals safety is a main issue: spoiled or contaminated gadgets can rationale sickness. Meals and social reputative displays. Category in Rome: wealthy citizens revel in problematic dinners with exclusive ingredients: peacock, dormice, imported spices, and exceptional wines. Commoners like Marcus make do with humble fare, but usually indulge during galas. Food is a social equalizer and divider. Feasts and festivals. Now and again, Marcus's nearby hosts communal feasts for devout or civic celebrations. These are instances of abundance: roasted pork or lamb, flatbreads and sweets, singing and dancing. Such gatherings strengthen community bonds and offer relief from day-to-day complication. Consuming water, wine, and more. Water is drawn from public fountains, but in general mixed with wine to avert illness. Wine varies in exceptional, poorer residents drink watered-down models. Wealthy experience nice vintages stored in amphorae. Wine is consumed socially, often with modest toasts and dialogue. Food taboos and customs. Distincted foods and practices have devout or cultural value. For illustration, pork is preferred for sacrifices. Distinct days forbid meat. Consuming manners are taught early. The proper hand. Reclining for the duration of foods for the wealthy. The challenges of starvation and shortage. Regardless of Rome's wealth, food shortages occur. Terrible harvests, excessive taxes, or political instability can lead to famine. Marcus and Livia generally fear concerning the fee and availability of staples. The owner Rome's grain dole presents relief to a couple, however, is confined. Food as identity and memory for Marcus. Meals is tied to home, family, and way of life. Recipes, handed down from Livia's mum. The style of fresh bread from the baker. The scent of herbsies are comforts. Meals grounds him within the metropolis, connects him to Rome's historical past, and nourishes both body and soul. Asterisk within the coronary heart of Rome, amid the clamour of retailers, the roar of the group, and the tireless hum of artisans, one regular stays, the everyday ritual of food. For Marcus and his loved ones, food is just not without problems. Nourishment it is a symbol of survival, neighborhood, popularity, and social gathering. Through the cycles of meals, the rhythm of seasons, and the grandeur of festivals, the style of Rome shapes existences, joys, and struggles alike. In this chapter, we discover the daily diets, cooking customs, food markets, social significance of foods, and the festive feasts that punctuate lifestyles within the eternal metropolis. The Roman weight reduction plan. Simple, seasonal, and regional. Meals are humble but hearty, reflecting his repute as a working-type craftsman. The day-to-day fare is developed around staple elements that preserve hundreds of thousands in a city of over 1 million inhabitants. Grains. The groundwork of most foods is grain barley for the poorer courses, wheat if low-priced. Bread is most often coarse and dense, made by way of nearby bakers or at house. Pulse, a porridge made from boiled grains or legumes, is a original and filling dish. Veggies and legumes, greens like cabbage, leeks, onions, garlic, lentils, chickpeas, and beans provide principal vitamin. These are cooked in simple stews or eaten contemporary. Fruits, relying on the season, Marcus's loved ones could enjoy figs, apples, grapes, pomegranates, or pears. Fruit is more commonly eaten uncooked or dried. Olive oil. Olive oil is a key ingredient used for cooking, dressing salads, and keeping meals. It adds flavor and richness to, in any other case, undeniable dishes. Fish and meat. Meat is a luxurious rarely afforded through commoners. Fish, particularly salted or dried sorts, is extra fashioned and often incorporated in meals. Once in a while, Marcus would buy eggs or small parts of meat for the duration of fairs or specific occasions. Condiments. A ubiquitous flavoring is garum, a pungent fermented fish sauce, used very like modern soy sauce or ketchup. It is discovered on tables across Rome, from patrician villas to humble insulae.ii. The constitution of everyday meals. Roman ingredients are structured and ordinary. Yentaculum breakfast, a modest morning meal, most of the time bread with honey, olives, or cheese accompanied via watered-down wine or water. Many Romans pass this meal or preserve it very light, certainly if their work starts a early. Prondium lunch, a gentle noon meal, usually eaten bloodless. Leftovers from the earlier day, fruits, bread, and perhaps eggs or vegetables. It's functional and designed to not disrupt the day's labor. Cena dinner, the essential meal, consumed in the late afternoon or night. For Marcus, cena is a loved one's affair, a time to accumulate round a easy desk, share meals, and exchange information. This meal might incorporate stewed greens, bread, cheese, occasionally fish, and fruit for dessert. 3. Cooking and meals. Guidance. Livia, Marcus's wife, manages the kitchen, a small, almost always smoky room dominated through a clay hearth. Cooking is completed over an open flame, or a portable range called a fuel is scarce and important. Timber or charcoal is rationed carefully. The kitchen comprises clay pots, bronze pans, knives, and picket utensils. Water is fetched from the regional fountain, and all food must be all set fresh day to day because of lack of refrigeration. Maintenance procedures incorporate salting fish, drying fruits, and pickling vegetables. Though easy, these approaches ensure some sort and longevity of meals. Presence. IV. Markets and meals give change each morning. Marcus or Livia visits neighborhood markets within the Subura or close the discussion board. Markets in Rome are a hive of activity. Carriers name out their wares, carts piled high with fruits, vegetables, bread, and salted fish line the streets. Cattle markets sell cattle, sheep, and poultry. Specialized shops present olive oil, wine, honey, and spices. Food arrives from all corners of the empire. Grain from Egypt and North Africa, olive oil from Hispania and southern Italy. Fish from the Mediterranean, extraordinary. Spices and fruits from the east. Marcus have to bargain carefully, balancing rate with satisfactory Food prices can fluctuate due to supply shortages or political unrest, impacting his household's food plan. V. The social that means of food in Rome. What you devour and the way you consume marks your place in society. The rich host complex convivia bank with multiple guides, exceptional dishes, enjoyment, and hours of dining. The middle and decreased classes devour easier, more repetitive foods concerned with sustenance. Sharing meals strengthens loved ones and group ties. Festivals and public feasts stage social variations quickly, inviting every person to partake in abundance. Marcus typically hears gossip in the markets about luxurious feasts hosted by means of senators or generals. Although such extravagance is past his means, he enjoys listening to stories and glimpses of that world. 5. Festivals and feasts. Celebrations of food and religion. Roman galas are moments of joyous abundance and communal bonding. For the duration of movements like Saturnalia, food flows freely: roasted pork and lamb, candy, truffles, and honeyed treats, wine freely poured, communal tables set in the streets. These feasts celebrate the gods, seasonal cycles, or army victories. Marcus treasures these occasions when day-to-day hardships soften, and even the bad believe the city's generosity. V. Wine, water, and consuming customs. Water in Rome is more commonly drawn from public fountains or aqueduct-fed sources. Nonetheless, due to concerns about purity, it's most likely blended with wine. Wine varies in excellent and force. Negative residents drink diluted or sour wine. Wealthier Romans enjoy first-rate vintages. Consuming is social and ritualized, accompanied via toasts and conversation. Marcus enjoys small cups of watered wine with associates after a long day's work.